So I'll be going shortly through the impact report that we've done at Maria01, and giving you a snapshot. First of all, how did our community and our companies do last year? But then digging deeper into the actual impact that the companies are and have been creating. All right, and just clicking the next slide so we can get it rolling. Perfect. All right. So few numbers about the community. So as you hopefully know, the Maria01 is a startup campus, but moreover a startup community based from Helsinki, Finland. And the community consists of startup entrepreneurs, the venture capitalists, game studios, corporate partners, and different ecosystem support organizations. And here's a snapshot of the numbers from the last year. So the total number of companies grew despite of the challenging year, 24%, and now we have in total 175 companies as being part of the Maria family. And also in terms of members, we got a 15% increase. So the current member count is almost 1,400. It was really nice to see that we have 39 different nationalities as part of the community. So we can truly say that Maria is a very international community. Then if we dig deeper into the kind of more traditional metrics, so these are the funding numbers from last year, and in general, if we think about startups and the startup ecosystem last year, despite of the challenging year, many startups actually were doing really well. If we think about only the Finnish startup ecosystem, the kind of like study based on NGB Capital said that during the past 12 months, Helsinki startups increased the funding raised by 62%, which was actually the second highest technology city in Europe. And we could also see those numbers reflecting to the Maria01 portfolio companies. So in here you can see that there was in total 32 funding rounds, which is 28% more than the year before, and also in terms of jobs being created. So last year there was 240 new jobs being created in these companies, which was actually a huge increase, 80% from the year 2019. Also, it was very nice to see that there was more and more female-led companies. So that number is now 27, and the increase from last year was 13%. So the total funding amount ended up as being 348 million, which is a very nice number. So that combines all the active Maria01 companies, but also the domestic ones, but also the foreign ones. So basically the ones that have their headquarters in other locations. And also on top of that, the alumni companies from Maria01 that raised 43 million last year. All right, and then, well, that was kind of like the traditional metrics that you usually put together every year. But let's now dig deeper into the actual impact that we measured there. So to start off with, how did we actually measure the impact of all these companies? First of all, we partner up with the Upright Project Company and also the city of Helsinki to conduct this study. So in this study, all the companies from the community were picked, and then basically all the information collected in this model then comes through different public sources. So all the information online, and in total the company data meant that there was around 100 million revenue in total of all these companies, and they employ approximately 1,500 people. And here are the results. So in this model, we analyzed the 4 different categories of creating impact. So first one being the society. And as you can see here in the picture, the society category is the one where these companies are producing more positive net impact. So the biggest contribution comes through creating jobs as well as taxes. So, and seems like relative to the amount of revenue the companies are creating, they're providing a pretty significant amount of jobs. Also, like societal infrastructure, so companies working in housing and transportation, for example, they were producing net positive impact in terms of the infrastructure part. Then the second aspect that was analyzed is knowledge. And in the knowledge section, I think what's a really interesting discovery is that whenever we talk about startup companies, since they are hiring a lot of people, they're raising venture capital, but they're not yet creating that much revenue. So basically, it means that they're using a lot of scarce human resources in their work. So it can be seen from here that the net impact of knowledge of all these companies goes slightly negative, and that is mostly due to the scarce human capital resources. The third aspect analyzed here was health. In health, we can see, for example, that since we have quite a lot of gaming companies in the campus, so they provide net positive impact, especially to the subcategory of meaning and joy, but at the same time, a negative impact on the physical activity, which is then based on scientific articles. And also there's companies whose product is, for example, related to messaging or messaging platforms, then they contributed positively on the relationship category there. So in total, health was slightly positive on net impact level for Maria01 companies. And then the last area analyzed was the environment. Environment, we could also see that it's slightly on the negative side, and obviously because all businesses cause some emissions. However, the impact was rather minimal. But especially startups who are in the value chain of logistics, transportation, are obviously the ones who are contributing most to the emission part. So in total, we could see that the net impact was positive, and based on the scale by this upright project model, we could see a result of 3.2. And then when we switch on to the next one, we did analyze here, because this was the second year that we did this study. So we could see the results compared to 2019. And what was really nice to see that the Maria community results were improving from the previous year. So 2019, we got 2.92 as the net positive result, and now we had 3.19. And I guess the biggest discoveries would be that some companies with larger environmental footprint were not part of the portfolio anymore for this year, so thus reducing the impact for the environment. And at the same time, we have been seeing a lot of traction, a lot more health tech companies entering the campus. So they're contributing more positive especially on the health category. And then the final kind of comparison we did was comparing these Maria companies in the portfolio against more traditional companies, so the Nasdaq Helsinki. And I think there's a lot of interesting discoveries on a general level if we compare startup companies with already established companies. So we can see that the relative positive impact of startup companies compared to traditional ones is a lot more significant, especially on the society part. At the same time, we can see the knowledge that startups are consuming more those human resources therefore creating more negative impact versus more traditional companies who are creating more revenue. Then also the health part, we could see that startups were creating more positive impact compared to Nasdaq companies. And the final part was the environment, where obviously we see companies who are in aviation or energy, for example, in the stock exchange. So the negative impact of those companies were larger than the startup companies in this section. So yeah, this was just a quick snapshot on what we've been analyzing, and obviously we want to at Maria, it's very important to have those traditional metrics, but we want to raise the discussion more, that there will be more and more discussion around what is the real impact that these companies are creating for all of us. So if you want to go deeper and see more detailed information, then we have the whole report you can download from the Maria website, maria.io, and we'll be also sending you the link for all the participants afterwards, so you can have a more look. So thank you everybody, and looking forward to continue the discussion in the upcoming panel.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ville. This was a good intro, and therefore next up is the impact panel. So let's start the panel discussion, and here I have Ilona Mooney from Workahead, who is going to host and moderate the panel itself. And for panelists, we have Jens Ingelstedt from Impact Accelerator, then Toni Laitila from Upright Project, Terhi Vapola from Helen Ventures, and then Ville will continue in the panel. But feel free, panelists and Ilona, to start the discussion. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Tia, and warm welcome to everyone on my behalf. It's really lovely to see so many familiar names in the participant list. So hello to everyone I know. And just to start, I want to tell you that we're going to chat for about half an hour. And after that, we've reserved 15 minutes for your questions and comments. And given we live this pandemic era, I would love if you were ready to turn on your video and join us and ask the question from the panel. And please let me know by writing, like, I can join video, if you would be able to do that. Otherwise, I'll pick up the best questions and just read them. But it would be nice to interact a little bit with you. So we have some pretty interesting participants in the panel today. So Ville, you're all familiar with. He's navigating Maria through the pandemic era and helping startups create a change. What's very interesting about Terhi is that Helen has started a 50 million fund. So if you're a startup raising money or planning to raise money for creating a change in the energy sector, decarbonization, Terhi is a good person to know. Jens brought WeWork to Sweden and runs plusimpact accelerator, which is there to help startups along the journey that have positive impact. I think they have periodic applications for the accelerator program, so maybe Jens can later tell about those dates as well. And then, of course, we have Toni from Upright, the man behind operations for getting these facts and figures about how impactful we are. To get our panel started, I want to start with the question: what was the most important insight for you in the impact report? And actually, could we start with Ville, since this is your baby?
Sure. Yes. I think, personally, I'm still learning about, how to measure and analyze impact. And I think for me, for example, the using the scarce human capital, that's definitely something that, I've only realized through doing this analysis that is definitely an area where where startups are like consuming and creating net negative impact, so to say. Maybe another interesting discovery was that it is actually very hard to produce positive net impact on the environment category. We've been actually having debates well, not debates, but kind of discussions with Toni. Toni can elaborate more on actually how is the positive environment impact being created. But I guess that was one discovery for me that doesn't just happen by having a product that is doing good for the environment. But yeah, maybe Toni can elaborate more on that.
Yeah, I don't know if you want the elaboration already right now, but hey, my name is Toni. So yeah, that's very true that when we are looking at the environment category through this net impact quantification, you can only kind of become positive on the environment side if you really like remove emissions rather just like reducing your own footprint. That doesn't still kind of count. That just minimizes the negative bar. But maybe we can get even more into that later.
So Toni, what was most insightful or important insight for you in Maria's report?
Yeah, so I think like starting something that Ville already shared was the kind of the slight positive progress from 2019 and 2020. That itself maybe wasn't the most kind of largest insight, but kind of the implications that this took place, that there was already positive progress. And now that if Maria starts to take kind of proactive kind of steps towards proactively directing efforts to companies that might be net positive and kind of taking stance on that, the opportunities are kind of huge in that sense. And that kind of from that point, kind of that maybe even the second point I think is that the notion that Maria 01 and the whole community, they can kind of improve their impact the best by first kind of just selecting good startups to the community, which they already have, and then just make their best efforts to help them grow and kind of provide them platform for growing. And as kind of net positive startups grow, the net impact grows as well. And I think that's the best that Maria can do. And I think that was kind of implied from the net impact or the Maria 01 impact report as well.
Terhi, do you want to go next?
I can go next. So first of all, I think that the best thing about these kind of reports is the fact that these things are measured, because you get what you measure. So I'm super happy to see that Maria is doing this. Yeah, I have to say that the environmental one, of course, is the one which I was kind of paying attention to, so that could we go into having more impact and having more startups which are actually working in this area. So we are ourselves investing in the energy transition, and especially trying to find the companies who can make a positive climate change impact. And then seeing that the discussion is, okay, how much negative can you minimize the negative? I think that's fantastic. But we really definitely should be moving now beyond that and actually have companies who are doing carbon capture or doing things which actually take us into the further or indirectly have an impact. So it could be that this doesn't measure like if you develop a technology which can help some of the larger Nasdaq companies or whatever to reduce the environmental like indirectly. So that also would be something I'd hope to see in the going further.
Jens?
Yes, thanks guys. I agree with Terhi that I mean the first thing is to measure, right? There's a huge debate globally of how to measure impact, but the start is just to try one method and do it over and over again and fine tune it. And there's no other way that you can actually track progress unless you measure something. So I'm glad to see that, first of all. I'm also super positive to see that, like, even though 2020 was like the toughest year ever for a lot of startups and especially bigger corporations, funding, jobs created, and everything increased a lot. The number of startups increased a lot. And that only shows, right, in terms of crisis, the companies that actually succeed to quickly find solutions that work in a COVID world and a post-COVID world are the startups, right? And I'm glad to see that they get funding in terms of crisis as well, and things are expanding in terms of innovation.
Cool. So we need to measure consistently, move beyond the simple and obvious things to the more challenging things, support impact startups to grow and have greater impact. Now, we have some really different organizations in this call. I want to hear your elevator pitch. What does impact mean for you? And what is your impact? And can we make it a super quick elevator pitch? 30 to 60 minutes, and ready to start.
I can go ahead. Hopefully it's not minutes, but seconds. I mean, I'm a simple guy, so try to put it in a simple way. But like for me, you know, creating impact, like, you know, essentially that means solving big problems that create positive net impact for the society, for the planet, and or the people. And then also, I want to say that, you know, having good financial metrics doesn't have to be in conflict any way in you know, creating that impact. But moreover, they should go hand in hand.
Should I continue from there? So yeah, impact it's really a personal topic for me, and I'd like to kind of separate two notions of having this kind of personal impact to the organization you're working for and the impact that the organization has the world around us. And for me, obviously, both things are really important. But what really kind of makes me go is the organization's impact to the world around us. So I think that's something that I think we should raise in the discussion, and something that people really already understand, that it's really about the impact of the organization, and whatever way you can help them to make that impact, then you are impactful as well yourself.
Maybe I'll just continue here. So I think that it's easy to say that what has been already said, I fully agree. Maybe something to add in addition to that is thinking of what impact really means in terms of a term. So it means results. So if you think about trying to do good things or thinking of it and having the values, they are all important. But at the end, in order to the organization to have an impact, it needs to be growing into the level that it actually can make a difference. And I think that's also very important, that we actually get the startups into the stage that the impact can be realized, so that it's from the tiny to the bigger, and therefore has impact results, i.e. the impact in the world around them.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, I was thinking about this question now when you guys answered, and I came back to a question that I was asked a few years ago. A guy asked me if I think we can solve the climate crisis, and I honestly don't know. I still don't know if we can do it. We can probably do it somehow, but it's going to get pretty bad before we turn it around, to be honest. But do I want to try? Yes, I'm super eager to try. And I think it's just doing something around you, and don't get paralyzed. Focus on the solutions that work, like Terhi said, and make sure that we scale them, invest in them, and focus on them, support them on social media. And also to measure and raise the bar year by year, and also try to reverse the harm that has been done, and try as a person and as organizations to become net positive, and to not only strive to reduce your emissions, but also to really do good for the world and create a positive impact.
Thank you. So we are looking at solving big problems and having organizational ways where we impact, as well as results and growth so that those results count, as well as raising the bar, reversing the harm, doing new things. Now, our panel topic is redefining impact in the Nordics. Are we redefining? Are we creating new? And I think maybe an angle that's interesting to reflect upon is the current pandemic. Is there now a shift in how we perceive impact, either organizational or personally? Are we moving beyond something we had before? Because of course, impact is a topic we've been discussing for quite some time. Maybe we're just becoming more pressed to find ways to solve our most urgent problems. But I would love to hear reflections from you. What does it mean for you that we've been invited here today to talk about redefining the Nordic impact? And could we maybe start with Terhi this time?
So personally, for me, impact has always been something I've been looking to kind of why solve the small problems if you can't be trying to, exactly what Jens was saying, trying to solve something which actually matters. So I think you always make choices of where you use your time on. I don't see that the pandemic itself. Of course, we are in the very strange time still, and like a year ago, nobody could believe that we can just go about living like this. What we do at the moment, but I don't see that the pandemic itself is actually changing the importance, or even how we see the impact as such. What I do see that we start to have much more of this, like people actually take their 5 cents and actually do things. So that's, I'm super excited to see that, like we know that we are dealing with systemic problems. So these are super complex, and there is no one silver bullet how you can solve climate change or how you can do make the world equal or make people healthier. So these are super difficult things, what we are dealing here, but that shouldn't paralyze us. So making your small steps and believing that actually any small group can make a difference, and basically they are the only ones who do. So kind of this, which I'm sure everybody has heard this saying. So that I think that's the whole spirit of the startups, and I'm really positive. We have huge problems, but we need to solve them, and I'm sure that like every small step towards the way is making a difference.
Who wants to go next?
I can go next. I mean, I agree with Terhi. At the same time, I do think that things have changed a lot in the last year, because people have totally changed their habits and their patterns. Everything is different. People are working from home. People are more in the nature. People care more, I think, about the relations to each other and how we harm the world and how we relate to the world. I saw a study this morning, for example, saying that in Sweden, at least, it's probably the same in Finland as well. The amount of Swedish people that care about the environment and biodiversity and are seriously worried it has increased by 50% in the last year. And the people said 50% that they will fly way less now than they did before. So I think this has been a wake-up call, and it could have been a bigger wake-up call, but I think it has been a wake-up call. And I mean, if it had not been for innovations that had happened prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic, like the computer and video calls and Slack and so forth, the pandemic would have been way worse, right? So if it wasn't for innovation that is happening all the time, this crisis would have been way worse. And the solutions that work now and are built for a post-COVID world are purposely built to be more impactful and focus more on the environment. And that's my feeling, at least. I mean, the bad solutions that are not working, they will not get funding, they will not get talent, they will not get customers as it is right now, which is great.
Yeah, maybe I go next. So yeah, how I see this, like what does the redefining impact, and something that we talk about a lot about at Upright is just understanding the positive impact you have, and at the same time being like really open and disclose what are the resources you use to achieve these positive impacts, because it's not really like constructive discussion to just only highlight the positive and highlight the resources you use. And I think with the startups and smaller companies, the scarce human capital is a great example. And the best way to kind of get that impact, that use of resource smaller, is basically to scale and grow and become more efficient. So all of the smart people that work for this company get more positive done. And then secondly, continuing on that, is that the impact is no more like this just some sidestep in business. It's much about core business. As we at Upright, we've been studying, for instance, how employees see impact, and for instance, about on this survey that we had of like 1,200 people, over 50% had considered changing jobs due to the impact of the organization. And it really raised discussion on Twitter yesterday when there was the Helsingin Sanomat article about from CEOs of companies. So that just tells it's an important topic for the people on the top management level even. And maybe to finish off the my point of view about the pandemic, how has it changed impact? Really pragmatically, I see it as like a lot of bad things, obviously, but as an opportunity for instance, Finnish startups to scale internationally, because through video you are on the same line with other international startups. So it's really an opportunity for us, for instance, to sell to Central Europe without putting an office there. So it's an opportunity also.
Yeah, maybe I'll wrap it up. A lot of smart things were already said there. I mean, yeah, I think if I look at, for example, the startups, what is really interesting to see, and especially the investors. So like now when you talk with investors and you ask that, what kind of companies you're looking for, actually quite a few answer that, companies that are solving really big problems and make an impact. So it's been really nice to see that the impact has really like gone into the core of the kind of investment thesis, but also what Toni was saying also, if we think about people, working in different organizations, not only startups, I think that's another aspect that, people are really thinking more about what is the impact that my organization is creating, what is the impact that I'm creating with my work. And I think this has definitely changed now because of the pandemic. And kind of like, then going back from here at some point, it's very interesting to see, how much of these things will become habits and stay. I'm pretty sure that, many of the things will stay, but it's going to be very interesting to see how many of them will stick for good.
Thank you. Loved hearing your perspectives. So we're seeing more people making daily changes, as well as, I think, more a systemic change. And what's actually lovely about this report, this is now the second year the impact report has been done at Maria. So it's becoming a habit to measure Maria's impact and talk about the impact. So I think that already is part of the change, that we're starting to do these things systematically. Now we've almost taken our half an hour for the panel, and I can see some pretty lively chat and questions going. And I would like to ask if Denny from Muna.io would want to join us, because I think you've been having lots of questions and comments. And I think Jenni Pajunen also said she would have a question. So if you, Tia, would be able to join at those. And Denny, please turn on your video so we can see you, introduce yourself briefly, and then pick one of your best questions you had or comments to the panel.
Yes, I believe Denny is about to join as panelist, so feel free to
just join.
Great.
Hi, good morning, guys. My name is Denny. I'm working on a startup called Mooney, and I'm calling in from Helsinki today. So interesting topic, of course, about impact analysis. And of course, thank you for sharing the Maria impact analysis too. What strikes me, of course, is that, Maria as a community sort of collects all different startups together, but all these different startups has different origin and stand for different businesses and work on different problems they are solving. And when you measure them in this metrics approach, then it's good to see as is, but then how do you drive them to change, to improve, right? Today, what are the active action that you sort of incentive put towards them to, okay, now we try to now bump this metrics up or that metrics down. So that's one question, right? So I have two questions. Then second question to the panelists here is, today we talk a lot about impact investing, or how you want to spend your time every day to do something that is meaningful to you. And then as an investor, would you then tune down the economic performance if you need to invest in longer term, right? Impact sometimes comes not in 2 years, not in 5 years. It's a long-term thing, long-term game, right? 5 years, 10 years. Then would you then change your thesis and how you look at startup, or how would that change? So that's sort of two questions, one more directly to Maria01 and one more to the panelists. So thank you for listening.
Should we start with Ville addressing the first question? And then I think Terhi, would you want to comment on the investor question?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. Yeah. So very, very good questions. Yeah. So basically, what we've implemented now is that when companies apply to Maria, so there's an application process that companies need to go through, and we've had these traditional metrics there, of course, what is your product and what stage you're in, how much you've been raising funding, and so forth. But what we've been actually doing now, that we've been adding more elements there to have an emphasis on the impact before those companies even apply. So what are the SDGs that they're addressing and why? That is one question that we ask. We also try to emphasize the fact that how are they considering diversity in their teams, for example. So these are now some of the implications that we've done based on this. And then obviously, the event today, for example, kind of like showing that thought leadership and bringing that discussion around the community. I guess that's the kind of another angle how we're trying to push and address the topic all the time. So at least those things. But like I said earlier, we are still in the learning path in this as well. But trying to add things all the time that will lead more towards the creating bigger impact.
Thank you, Ville. Thank you for that comment.
And then related to the question of economic versus impact. So I think that is changing in the investor community quite a lot, I would say. So thinking of like if you needed to make a choice between the two. So we look at the in terms of where most of the money can be made is actually making the impactful investments or investments into something which actually are super important for many aspects. So actually those investments and there are results also in if you look at the public sector or investment funds that ESG is not exactly the same as impact, but anyways always thinking of the measures, those companies who have been more focused on those in terms of investing in those companies have been actually creating more profit or creating more return on investment. So actually, I see the shift going from this kind of taxonomy of difference and bringing them together. We also see it on the EU side. So there is this initiative of sustainable financing, which is driving towards investors actually stating, if they are stating the claims on impact, they actually need to back it up as well. So putting more pressure also on the investors to act on these things. And then also, if you think about like a VC investors, what we can do in practice. So, for example, Helen Ventures, we are part of the Leaders for Climate Action, this kind of a community also, which is focusing on the investors and startups acting on these things, where we look at the when we go into making the investment, there are certain, not just the financial KPIs we're going to measure, but also the you could say sustainability or impact related measures as well. And this could go quite well in hand. So if you think about like from our portfolio companies, so we have a company which is working on, let's take the example, on district heating and providing the AI into the solution. And what they can do is lower the temperature which goes in there, which in practice directly means reduction of the CO2. So this kind of having that impact in there can be actually quite easily measured. So what is the more it is used, the more you can actually reduce the CO2. Or thinking of investments which we've done into electric mobility. So more of the charging sessions you have for the EV in the renewable energy. You of course it is not directly. You would need to look at it in more in detail, but basically you are substituting something else, which would be on a fuel based or petrol. So this like having people to go into the EVs and measuring the impact on those. So this kind of things is what we do in practice as investors, where we are addressing these things.
No, thank you for that comment, Terhi. Then I have a follow-up question to that. I mean,
Denny, sorry, we have
okay.
so many people wanting to ask questions.
No problem.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Terhi, wow, that was such an expansive answer. I'm impressed. We have next up Jenny, and could Daniel from Berkeley get ready to ask a question after Jenny?
Okay, hi guys. So my name is Jenni Pajunen, and I'm a city councillor at the city of Helsinki and member of the Economic Development Committee, and I've been following Maria from the beginning. And so thanks a lot for this very interesting report and a great discussion. And it's really good to see the upright model in action, and especially to be able to compare between the years. And it's good to see that the impact is growing despite these very weird pandemic conditions that we've faced from last year. And as you know, our overall great, grand, big objective is to make Maria 01 the most influential startup campus in Northern Europe. And with this, we mean not only by size, but also by impact. And so my question to you today is what can we do better from the city perspective and the policy perspective to support you and to help the community and also the individual startups to increase your impact? Thank you.
I love your question, and I just want to encourage, if there's anybody in the audience who has feedback for Jenni, please feel free and choose that you also send it to the attendees, because otherwise Jenni might not say that, but this is a very important question. Who wants to answer from the panel?
I guess that could be me. That could be me. Yeah. Well, first of all, I think, if you think about Maria 01 and the whole journey that we had, it's been a great, this like a public private type of a partnership that we've been having all the time, but obviously city as an owner of the campus facilities, for example. I think then it's a very concrete thing where we would need cities' support in terms of when we think about what are the energy solutions, for example, used at the campus. At the moment, we cannot really make those decisions. So really, we would need to help from city's side. And then if we think about, of course, the campus expansion project, which is a huge investment and expansion that is happening in the coming years, then I think also the kind of solutions that will be then implemented for the campus. Whenever we talk about, whether it's energy or, what kind of a local food production is made, how the waste management is handled, all these kind of infrastructure related things are very much in the core. But actually they've been taken quite well into consideration already in the development plans. And then, I think one aspect there is that, which I think is related to impact, is that how do we get more talented people to come here and work in these companies, to set up companies, and that's definitely an area where we need city support. So how can we have easier process for people to come in? How can we have more daycare places for the kids? How can we have better employment programs for the spouses, for example? So there's many things that are actually related to how can we increase the diversity and the impact that is creating, and definitely an area where we need the support from the city.
Maybe one thing to add in top of that is the kind of a purchasing power of the city. So if you think about like innovation, purchasing or things like where it is not just enabled through the policy, but actually actively playing a role of a lead customer to test new things with the startups. Because for the startups to get the ball running, you need to get the first customers. And if the city can be innovative in that sense, because there are so many things in the infrastructure or in the actions of the city which could have like a business relationship with the startup community of Maria. So that could be also another area which would be super great.
Thank you, Jenny. I think we're ready to move forward to Daniel. And if anybody in the audience has comments for Jenny, please write it for her. Thank you for joining us, Jenny.
Yes. Can you hear me? Good morning, everybody. It's Daniel from Parkley. We're actually also based at Marianolaux. And I keep my question quite brief as time is running out. A very interesting panel so far. Thank you to all participants. Just my question would be, collecting data and measuring the impact is, of course, a very important thing that has to be done. But how to get these numbers into more tangible things, like how to show this to a more general public, what's the actual impact? This is something I'm often thinking about. Maybe someone could maybe elaborate quickly on that. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe I can get a first step to this interesting and hard question. So it's very true that when we are measuring impact, it might be for some type of impact, like greenhouse gas emissions, there might be some pre-existing metrics. But when we are talking about, for instance, impact on people's relationships or sense of meaning and joy or even health, there might be lacking some type of unified metrics. So in that sense, what we at Upright for the past 3 years have been kind of trying to tackle is to make them, different categories to stack up against each other. So you can see kind of compared to the footprint that you cause in the environment, how much value do you create in knowledge infrastructure, for instance. But that's something that at least we have still yet to kind of figure out the final answer, how to make it easy to understand for the general public. And I think good steps has been taken as already, for instance, Helsingin Sanomat is writing about this type of metrics, but definitely some work to do still there.
Yeah, I mean, my 5 cents is basically, I mean, it needs to be as granular as possible, right? So if it's very high level, if it includes thousands of different companies, it's hard for one single company or one single employee to actually translate that into action because it feels like too big of a question. So the solution is really to try to make it as granular as possible so that each individual organization and people within those organizations understand how to take action. And I think a lot can be done in terms of creating smart, transparent solutions where you nudge people, where you nudge organizations, and you gamify things a bit, and you incentivize things a bit. So perhaps, Maria, 01, for example, you could try to nail it down per company. And if you have companies that are doing really well, maybe you can incentivize them somehow with rent reductions or something like that, or more support. And the ones that are polluting more and doing worse, for example, maybe they shouldn't get punished, but maybe they get less benefits, for example, something like that to really make it tangible.
Great. Thank you for the great question, Daniel. I wanted to reserve a few minutes at the end to go through some of the comments we received in the chat, and we have some very specific comments and questions. So given we have only a couple of minutes, these are going to be super quick answers, I hope. The first one comes from Heidi, and the question is that the report looks great, but she's missing the part where last year each startup was featured and their impact, and Heidi used it in marketing. Is it possible? Could we get this still added to the report, or is there a way to check out the each startup's position? Toni?
Yeah, I don't know if Ville wants to go first, but yes, we can for sure look into that. I think it was cut out because there's like 170 startups, so it would be a long report, and we don't want to we want to be equal to all of the startups. So some choices had to be made, but we can for sure look into that if we could provide this as an add-on.
Perfect. So pull up Pixari for Heidi at least, and if there's anybody else who needs that, if that's possible.
Yeah, I'll write it down.
Then we had a question about measuring biodiversity subcategory of the environmental impact from APO. How could we quantify the impact of like 100,000 buzzy bees that have been providing? So could you just briefly open up, how do you measure these categories, Toni?
Yeah, so maybe like the 20-second answer is that if the typical approach to measuring impact is this kind of bottom-up approach, like life cycle assessments and carbon footprint calculations, where you really go into depth and understand the impact of a bee or a product or whatnot, our approach is top-down model, where we first understand the whole private sector, all of the companies and products and services, and then we allocate it to all products, services, and companies. And some of them will be allocated to these companies that, for instance, positively impact biodiversity. So it's an allocation problem, not really this kind of bottom-up measurement for us.
Perfect. Then we had Kim ask why the SDGs fall short, or should they be combined? And I think it actually would be interesting also to hear from Jens. And plus impact side, how do you measure? Like, do you use SDGs, or what's your model?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, we run programs focusing on different SDGs every year. So this year we do 3 programs. First is focused on food and agriculture, and we screen all the startups. Obviously, they need to, when they apply, to specify, just like when you apply to Maria 01, you need to specify which SDGs you're addressing and how. And then we have an entity called RISE, which is the main research entity here in Sweden. They have 3,000 scientists, and they help us out to really assess each case that we take in to make sure that they deliver impact and then really address the pressing issues. So that's definitely core.
Perfect. We have 1 minute left, and I want to reserve it for each panelist saying any news. So I think, Jens, could you briefly tell when your next your batches are opening, or the applications? And Terhi, if there is a startup that wants to have a chat with you and pitch to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you? And I think for Toni, I see you've been hiring a lot. Are you currently hiring? Can we start with Jens?
Sure, happy to go. So it's actually not official yet, but maybe I can share it here. So we are launching a new program, and applications will open in like 2 weeks or so. And the focus will be energy and mobility. And the call is open for Finnish startups as well. So in the current program in food, we have 2 Finnish startups, and I hope to increase that to maybe 5, 6 Finnish startups. So if you know anyone, send them my way.
Terhi?
So we'd be super interested to hear from the startups. Best way is just to send the email. So the email address is hello@helleventures.fi. Just send it over and we'd be delighted to talk.
Great, Toni?
Yeah, so of course we are always hiring. So if you'd like to join a team of exceptional people who care about what they do and work with impact full time, please apply at uprideproject.com/jobs. So please do that.
Thank you so much. Ville, do you have any closing words? What if there's an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to create an impact? How do they join the Maria community?
Yeah, so pretty much the same answer. So, we have the application process on the website, and we try to answer for every startups applying within a week. So, but it would be fantastic to see more companies who are focusing on impact to come to Maria. So, and thanks, Ilona, for hosting the great panel.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I love always talking about impact, and I think we had a fantastic panel. And I was told you would be too shy to join with video to ask questions. So thank you for not being shy and joining our panel and having a lively, great questions and great dialogue. I wish everyone has a great day and a happy weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day and a great weekend.